friends, neighbors, and of course, the YouTube comments section. Hello, welcome back. Happy holidays. Are they happy? Are any of us happy as production people around the holidays? Just a lot of shows and stress. With that sunny disposition of an intro, I figured we'd do another episode of Ask a Case Guy, the segment on my channel, which we talk about road cases. Because for those of you who know, and those of you who don't, I run the systems integration department at LM Cases. And because I'm a glutton for punishment, I like to show you guys my prototypes and weird electrical projects so that you can tear them apart and you guys can tell me all the things that I'm doing wrong before we subject our dangerous designs to customers nationwide. So on my last episode of Ask a Case Guy, I started out with this disclaimer, and I'll give it to you again. This is meant purely as an educational video. I'm certainly not interested in putting anybody down, although we kind of will a little bit in this video. But, you know, my dad always said it, and I'm going to echo what he's always said. Everybody has a right to make a living. I'm certainly not interested in putting anybody out of business. We all serve a unique function in the world of entertainment, and to quote my dad, there is enough space for all of us. So with that being said, check out this video Flypack. So this is a non-LM case. I gaff taped out anything that has mention of the manufacturer who made it, because I mean, again, this is sort of a diss track, I guess, as the kids would say. But this case came back to LM for modification. And I can't really put it on LM's channel because I don't really want to showcase another manufacturer's case, but what we did do it is cool, and, well, somebody had to see it. So enter the Billy channel. So this is a generic catch-all workbox for a company that does audiovisual production for car companies. And this is kind of just a generic catch-all kind of thing. I've got two drawers loaded up in here, and you can see what's here. Office bits, electrical testers, hand tools, miscellaneous bolts. And the other drawers are removed so that I can do some electrical work. And actually, one of the drawer glide sets are broken, which is going to be something that we talk about later in the video. But as far as modification on this thing goes, they had this Blackmagic monitor in here. And the way that it was attached was using the VESA pattern on the monitor with this board in the lid. So they used T-nuts to attach this to the back of the lid, and then they screwed through this board for the VESA mount. Now, is this an effective solution? Sure. Is it a nice solution? No. You can definitely do better on the engineering. So let's just set that off to the side. So here's what we did to mount the monitor. We built a little rack mount unit here that has, I believe that this is 6 spaces to use the actual rack ears for the monitor. And then, because I didn't know what they were going to do with it, I put a 2U section above it. So this black 1/2-inch Baltic piece right here is nicely CNC cut. It tapers everything down, and it gives me this 2U section. Now, occupying the 2U section is a LM Tor Systems 2U blank panel that sells for like $45, the world's most overkill 1/8-inch aluminum rack panel. That's right, because why do something kill if you can do it overkill? But all joking aside, one of the reasons why we have that up there is so that if you do want to punch holes in there, you can. But right now it is just serving its function of being a blank space, because why see exposed rack rail when you can put a $45 blank 2U panel in there? So the monitor is rack mounted, as you can see. And then one of the things that we did was we cleaned up their cable loom. So the power when we got the monitor, just had a regular non-locking IEC, which those of you who've watched any of my build videos know that we just can't have that. So there's a locking IEC back there. There's 3 SDI connections and a network cable. So there's SDI in A and B. There's a direct monitor out that I believe mirrors one of them, and then we put that in a very nice TechFlex loom. So when I got this case, they had this little ATEM SDI Pro ISO controller and our little preview monitor rack mount speaker just laying in this thing. So they are pretty beat up, and it just lived on the little shelf. So what we did was we rebuilt this out of 1/2-inch Baltic and finished it in black texture coating and built them this little 3-space rack in here. So obviously the preview speaker is rack mounted as God intended, and we put this little brush panel in here to hide our nice little TechFlex loom. Not really a lot of inputs going into this thing. I would guess that they probably just use this thing to fade to black. But that being said, it's there. Before this thing leaves, I am going to make them a little bracket so that this, because right now this is just floating on here, and well, you know, again, like I made the joke about the rack panel, why do something kill when you can do something overkill? So I just can't have that thing sitting there, so I got to fab that. But this is Friday night at like, I don't know, 7 o'clock or so, and I just figured, why not shoot a YouTube video? Instead of going home. So anyway. Now, the thing about this case that we did a major modification on is the way that the lid closes. So if you follow LM, here's my shameless plug. If you don't, our YouTube channel is just LM Cases, or LM Cases 1985 is our user handle. Obviously, website being lmcases.com, or if you want to check us out on Instagram, that's LM_cases. For any LM fan people that are watching, we love some gas springs. You may call them gas shocks. We call them gas springs. We added gas springs to this lid because the way that this came from the original manufacturer is the only way that the lid stayed open were these valance spanning latches, and they locked into the back. So what you had to do was take the full weight of this lid, hold it up from the back, and then click these latches in. Now I know what you're thinking. Billy, that's simple. Sure, it is indeed simple, but not really loading these in a way that they're designed to do. So, you know, any of the astute engineering students or engineers out into the world will talk to you about shear. Now, a latch, when it's in its normal position like this, is very strong because these rivets that are attaching it are in a state of 90-degree shear, and then the latch has a nice downward pressure, and then when you get a valance spanning latch, which is just my least favorite latch for obvious reasons, but well, maybe not so obvious reasons to non-case people, when it's in its retracted position, you have this lovely razor blade of a catch that's just sitting up there, which is just bound to tear you up on something. And now the manufacturer thought of that and put this on here so that you can put the strike down when it's in transport mode. And well, what are the chances that the user opening this thing in haste is going to remember to undo these latches? I would say maybe 1 in 1,000. But when the lid is open, the only thing that holds it together is this, like this. Now that is terrible because the whole weight of the lid, not only do you have to lift it, it can also fall potentially. So now with our gas springs in here, all you have to do is put it down with one hand. So I have a, I don't know, 10-pound gimbal rig in my left hand, or in my right hand, and now in my left hand there's the case lid. It's just so nice. So there is that. The secondary thing that is a pretty large complaint of mine when we're dealing with integrated systems is when you're designing the case. Oftentimes it is very difficult to figure out how you're going to plug stuff in. And this case is a classic example of that. So there was no provision to plug in anything. So all of the cables here came out the front. So as you were operating your little baby switcher, there were cables to the left and cables to the right. So what we did was cut this trap door back here. This didn't exist. We added this. Ooh, look how nice that is. and we put a 6-space rack back here. Or actually, this is a 5-space rack. And then we built this panel. And not only did we build this panel, we cleaned up all of the wiring on the inside. So certain things that we did was take their cables and label them so that when things go back together or when things need troubleshot, you can figure it out. So look at this. Ooh, audio in right. So nice. The other thing that we did was consolidate all the power. So they had a power strip back here, which could probably be purchased at any neighborhood Walgreens. We upgraded that into a duplex outlet. And then on the back of that duplex outlet, I made tails that came out of that. So anything that gets an IEC, for example, the little speaker has a little locking IEC right there, which is way, way cleaner. So the only thing that plugs in this entire system is the AC to DC adapter for the little baby switcher. The monitor is an IEC that terminates into this box, hardwired. And then we also have the little speaker back here that also has a hard IEC. So as far as the panel goes, you get my favorite T5633 Leviton outlet, wired, quote, upside down with the ground pins facing up, which is the correct way of doing such things despite the logo. And you get a USB-A and a USB-C. And then one of the other things that I really do like to put on things are PowerCon outputs. I think if you look at any of my designs, you'll find that that is a recurring theme. And the reason why is it is a very cost-effective and, how should we say, cost-effective for space reasons, way of providing extra outlets. So this is one of my favorite things to build. This is an old school, I mean really, really old Hubble from like the 70s 4-plex outlet. And these are super, super cool. And if you notice, I use these things for everything. So these things, I think if you look at Hubble's website and get the CAD on this, it's physically drawn by hand. I think the last time this drawing was updated was like 1991, which is great. I love that stuff. So what you can do is build a 25-foot SO cable, put this guy on the end to give you 4 extra outlets, and terminate that with a locking PowerCon, which I like a lot. So there you go. That's the intended purpose of that PowerCon. Now on the back box of this particular panel, there are additional 2 locking PowerCons on the back, so that if they say want to plug in another one of our little 4-plex boxes on the inside, they can. So the things on the panel are the most readily needed things. So, you know, you can have a direct into the monitor. That goes right into the monitor. There's the duplicated monitor output that goes there, which would be your program or whatever you want it to be. Monitor in that hits the little switcher. This is the additional input to the little preview speaker. You have analog audio and AES, and then there's an additional 2 or 3 network jacks. So I didn't plug the network cables back in on this. I don't know if they want to have an individual network jack for each cable that's in there, or they want to have a switch, so I just bundled them up nice and neat. And the other thing that I do is I'm kind of obsessive with the heat shrink labels. So if you notice, this says monitor, mon, this is their cable. Didn't think it really necessary to make them a new RJ, but it is kind of bugging me that it's not done. But hey, that's between you, me, and our collective general amount of obsessive cable disorder. And we also gave them 2 additional blanks because, man, I make this joke all the time. Once you commit to a patch panel, as soon as you do that, that's when you change it. So these are just 2 very generic ways. And I put these little white scribble strips up here. These are laser etched in there, but if you want to write something with a thin line Sharpie, that's cool. Or if you want to put a P-Touch label in there, that is good too. So the back of the case has this nice blank plate right here. They jammed a forklift fork into that, and you know, when you do repair work, oftentimes it's a point of diminishing return here. You don't, once you take it apart too much, it's just cheaper to build a new case, so you're always kind of in that world. So again, you can kind of see some of this finish work. We made this little doghouse thing in here. We also added these little guys, these little corner protectors, just to help. When you do these multi-lid splits, especially when you have these compound miters like this, these can go all wacky on you, and they kind of want to bend, especially when you start clicking rivets off in there. So we added these just to make it a little bit stronger. What else? Oh, power, of course, while we're on power. So they had it's not even a Hubble 5263, which is the standard recessed male inlet they had like the cheaper version of that. So we covered that hole that was down here, and we made this little fabricated piece of marine grade plastic. And then we, of course, put in our DSK-I box and made it a PowerCon so that it flipped with the, or it stayed with the PowerCon theme of the case. So what that looks like on the inside is this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but it's a fully enclosed thing. So what the other manufacturer did was put the cheaper version of the 5263 inlet that had exposed screws that was wrapped in electrical tape to a power strip. And I just shake my head. That's not very good. So let's take a look at these drawers. So this drawer we ended up taking and rebuilding using their glides, which I'm not super thrilled about, but we had to shorten it up so that it can accommodate the panel. So that's kind of funky, but that's what we've got to do. And this is what most work boxes look like. So this case came to us mid-tour, completely loaded up. Which is what a lot of people do. I mean, a lot of people do send us cases mid-tour and say, help, I have got a couple of days off, can you fix this? You know, obviously we can do that for you if you're interested. But one of the interesting rants that I always try to go on is, especially regarding work boxes. So I have a saying, I say it all the time. It's road cases look exactly the same on the internet. So if you look at a black road or work box from LM, or a black workbox from somebody else, and ours is $5,000 and someone else is $1,500, and you're like, man, LM, those guys must go to Vegas every weekend and party with that much markup. Well, no, we don't. Road cases are hilariously time-consuming to engineer and build. Anybody that's built their own case will know that it's a very seemingly simple project on the surface, but when you get into it, it is really, really crazy. So road cases may look the same on the internet, but they are certainly not all built equally. So to that end, let's look at one of these drawers. So this is the drawer as it came out. Now this drawer has a busted glide on it, so we need to fix that. But you can just tell the way that this stuff is built, that it's built quickly. So, you know, they're making it out of Baltic, you know, so good on them for using the good wood. But this drawer is just stapled. So I would assume that they probably have wood glue in there, but again, this is just stapled, and that's not a very durable way of building this drawer. You know, there are no threads on a staple. And, you know, when we talked about shear on the latches, all you have to do is take a couple of hits, and you can separate your drawer, which when we pulled, this workbox was completely loaded. So when we pulled this thing apart, each one of these drawers probably weighed, I don't know, 50 pounds. They had drills and tape and all kinds of stuff in there. And, you know, I would say that to anybody that's looking at a workbox. I have yet to see a workbox ever that isn't absolutely loaded to death. So if you're cheaping out on a workbox, God help you. So if you, again, pitching LM the best that I can on this. If you watch any of our videos, I swear I say this 1,000 times, heavy-duty Accuride glides, Baltic birch drawer. So, well, this is the LM glide as a comparison. This is our standard Accuride glide, and this is the glide that came on the case. So, you know, if we're talking about hardware suppliers and things like that, this is a Knapp and Vonk. I'm probably not saying that correctly, but I'm Italian and not German. So, you know, I don't know how much this glide costs. I don't know anything about it. That's not what we use. This is our Accuride glide. This is, I don't know how deep this thing is, 8. This is probably a 16-inch glide if I had to take a guess. You know, this is $50. So, you know, you can buy, I mentioned in my previous video that, you know, most of us buy hardware from the same couple of companies. So you can buy light duty, which we call light duty glides, which are these from TCH that are TCH branded. And I think they cost us like $7 for the set of glides. So if you look at that, you know, say $7 for a TCH branded drawer glide or an Accuride glide that is 50 or 60 bucks, it's like, you know, that adds up fast as you start to pile up your drawers. So, you know, even if you're looking at marketing copy, this company can say that they build their drawers out of Baltic, which is technically true, but, you know, that's, do you want that construction? Or do you want an LM construction that is glued, pocket screwed, and stapled together. A lot of drawers are, you know, the stuff like, actually, this is a good segue, like our studio racks, these are dovetailed. So, you know, that's the level of woodworking that you're going to get from company A to company B being LM. So be careful, be an educated consumer. So, you know, even though it says, well, LM has a Baltic drawer and company A or company X has a Baltic drawer, what's the difference? It's the same. It's like, well, you know, not quite. So let me give you guys some insight into road cases. So when you build a workbox like this, if you're loading your drawer glides really heavily, the only thing that separates or that gives the case integrity is the drawers. So when you move the case like this, and the case wants to parallelogram like this, all of that stress goes to the glides. And interestingly enough, you get failures like that. So the reason why this glide failed is this right here, if you look at where my finger is. This is actually bending the receiver portion of the glide, and the ball bearings are about to come out. So that is not good. So what road case companies will do is put a divider in here right here. So if you look at a workbox and you see this divider, I mean, this is just a piece of wood with a piece of U-channel on there. The reason why they're doing that is when you're yanking on the handles that are right here, I'm not going to show you those because they have a manufacturer name on them, you're putting all of the stress on the glide. So if you notice where the glide is versus where the handle is versus where this divider is, that's why they do that. So there's your road case design. So what LM does is we build our workboxes basically like a shock mount rack. The drawers are mounted into a 1/2-inch plywood inner. That 1/2-inch plywood inner is then slid into a case and separated by a 1/2-inch piece of foam. So as you wrench on the outside of the case, you're never transferring the stress to the drawer glides. Again, does that make the road case lighter? No. Does it make it cheaper? Absolutely not. But it will make it last for a long time. So that's, you know, just an interesting kind of thing. So again, we'll close this video out of saying I'm not, okay, let me put the disclaimer like this. LM is a custom case company. We will build you whatever you ask. And every other case company is exactly the same. I'm going to suggest things to you, but oftentimes our customers are, well, basically saying, no, this is what I want, I don't care, build it for me. So it's really easy to pick apart somebody's work like I just did for 23 minutes without knowing the conversations that went into this, that there might be an ID to OD limitation here where they can't put the drawers in an inner, you know, they might have had a budgetary reason where they needed to use those glides, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it's very easy to trash somebody's work. There are certainly LM cases out into the world that, you know, I would never duplicate that design again, but whoever designed it is perfectly happy with them. So that's the disclaimer. And then again, you know, the other thing is we all do what we do. You know, sometimes a $7,000 workbox from LM is not going to cut it, and you just need the $1,500 eBay workbox, and that's all you need because that's all you can afford, and you know, you can replace that workbox 4 times before you get to the cost of the LM one, which is most people's, you know, value add proposition to that. And again, it's fine. You know, we all do what we do. Neve makes mic preamps. You know, Behringer makes mic preamps. It's just in what you want to do, the quality of components, how it's put together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, again, I'm not throwing shade on Behringer preamps. I mean, they probably sound fine too. But anyway, that's my attempt at some type of legal disclosure. If you guys like this series, let me know if you have any road case questions. I'm happy to answer anything that I can. You can always email me. I'll give you my LM email address. It's billy@lmcases.com if you have any questions. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye.